And we're live. Welcome everybody to Service Mesh Academy for July 16th, 2026. It still feels weird saying 2026. Eventually that might be normal. I'm Flynn. I'm a tech evangelist for Buoyant. It is delightful to be able to say I'm a tech evangelist instead of the tech evangelist. I'm joined today by my partner in crime, Sarah. Welcome, Sarah. And by Joe, who I honestly don't know what we call Joe. He's the guy who has to go and one of the guys who has to go and make things work for real customers as opposed to for the community like Sarah and I get to worry about. And Joe, you're going to talk to us about trust anchor rotation without pain or something like that.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Sarah, I think you may be muted.
Oh, it's okay. I'm muting just so various dog barking will not come through unless the people really want to hear the ambient tones of screaming children. But I would like to announce that since Flynn has stepped down as the tech evangelist, I will take the title of the tech evangelist. So it's kind of like the Facebook.
Yeah, we might have to discuss that later. Yeah. But I think we actually have polls this time around too, right?
Yeah, let's click the button and see what happens.
We haven't really tried this, so yeah, if you're out there in the audience, this would be a great time to try this. Or we could just wait a little bit and bring it back to give more people a chance to show up.
Yeah, we can
do that.
Off. Yeah.
I just am realizing the thing that we should have done here. So I'm going to set up this lower third to point people at the place to go if you have questions.
And while Flynn does that, Joe, can you give us any examples of like problems you've had with trust anchor rotation? As a typical software engineer, I haven't had to experience this type of pain.
Well, you're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones.
I know.
Probably in the minority. Yeah, so I think as an intro to this, it's worth pointing out that the trust anchor rotation operator is a new feature within Buoyant Enterprise for Linkerd as of 2.20. And so I've got a bunch of slides I'll go through. I'll go through them quite quickly because I want to get to the demo, which will kind of be sort of showing how we can implement automated trust anchor rotation using an operator. So, okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's
do it.
So, quick agenda. We will quickly go just through sort of certificates in Linkerd, what this kind of looks like, what problem we're trying to solve, the actual operator itself that's new in 2.20, some gotchas, limitations. We've got some just some examples of why trust anchor rotation is hard. We obviously got a demo, like I mentioned, and then we've got some time at the end for Q&A. All right, so certificates in Linkerd. So as you can see, mTLS in brief is there to ensure that network communications between pods in Kubernetes. And you could probably argue that this isn't just about Kubernetes, it's just about containers in general and the network communications between them.
Definitely.
Yeah. Using the hopefully most up-to-date, most secure cipher suites, protocols, and so forth. So I'm not going to read like every word of every slide, but confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity are kind of like the key themes that we look at when talking about mTLS, right?
In particular, if you're missing any of those three, things are going to go badly for you. So,
right, exactly, yeah. And they're the kind of things that you would want to put check marks next to if you are kind of assessing if your mTLS is doing what it should be doing. So the Linkerd certificate hierarchy. We have three certificates that we're going to be looking at here today, which are the trust anchor, the identity issuer, and the workload certificates. And that is both a picture of topology, but it's also going to be referenced in some of the slides later on when we start talking about why it's hard to rotate these certificates and why it isn't simply just a copy and paste or a swap one in, one out, or just running a couple of commands. It's a little bit more than that, and why sort of at scale this can be kind of quite problematic. So the trust anchor, it's a root certificate, it's self-signed, shared across the whole mesh. The identity issuer is an intermediate CA, one per cluster, and it's the issuer that signs and issues the workload certificates that each pod gets when we inject a Linkerd proxy into the pod. Okay. Automatic versus manual rotation. So at the minute, workload certificates, Linkerd can handle the rotation of these every 24 hours. Identity issuer, typically, obviously, longer time frame on when these get renewed. We can renew these automatically. Lots of customers do, lots of teams do, using something like Cert Manager. And the trust anchor is kind of the certificate that has the longest expiry on. I've seen organizations use expiry dates of literally like 10 years because they just never want to have to do it ever. So they just think, well, if we set 10 years, then the cluster will be gone and replaced within 10 years. Hopefully we're not keeping clusters around that long.
I honestly kind of wonder how many of those people, because Kubernetes itself is only around 10 years old, right? So I wonder if we're going to start seeing a spate of people having downtime as their 10-year clusters expire in the next couple of years, right? Please, if you're watching this and you're one of the people with a decade cluster, please go and rotate your cluster so that you don't land in that particular bit of pain. We would really appreciate that.
What a nice happy birthday. Happy 10 years Kubernetes and just downtime. It's a feature.
Yeah. We I don't know if it's still true, but there was a point where we were pretty confident that certificate expiry was the most common reason for actual production downtime. I don't know if that's still true or not, but it's a big deal.
Yeah, the 10-year thing really takes sort of pet and castle to a new level, doesn't it? But like I have seen it. I've seen these expiry dates with like years and years on because organizations see it on their RAID log when they're doing sort of a migration into a mesh or like into Kubernetes and think we just don't have to deal with that, so we'll just set any sort of infinity expiry.
I mean, here's a question really quick, just to diverge us into this. If 10 years is bad, then like what would y'all recommend as like here's like our ideal like Buoyant certified like timeline that we suggest? Like 2 years, a year, 30 days. Now with Bell, you can do it every hour if you want. Like what do we think?
It depends, TM. That question has come up a lot, and unfortunately, I don't want to steal Joe's thunder here, but unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's an organizational policy thing, right? The shorter the rotation period, then the more secure it is, arguably, and the more time an attacker has to go and steal it. Until the trust anchor rotation operator, though, there were a bunch of outfits that did not have the bandwidth to do it correctly, and so so it's very hard to recommend a blanket thing, right? It's more a kick it around in your organization and figure out what works for you.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there probably isn't a common value that we say, okay, most of our customers have this value set. But I mean, without getting too deep into PKI, sorry for any PKI enthusiasts that are watching, but I would typically not want to be allowing more than a year on a certificate, right? Because I mean, the whole point is that you're trying to protect keys and you think of it like a password. And I think standards are also moving. If you think about some of the standards that some common browsers providers are now enforcing on websites about maximum expiries, then
they're getting much shorter. I think in the next, I don't remember the time frame, but I would expect that by sometime next year we're going to be starting to see like Acme demanding 90-day expiries, for example. There's some really interesting stuff happening in there. But anyway.
Okay, so moving on to the overlap principle. So essentially, at some point when swapping out the trust anchor certificate, you are forced to enter this scenario where you've got both old and new in a bundle, and you have to do a bunch of things which we'll get into. But like that's what we essentially are doing. We have to expand the bundle. So everyone trusts both anchors at all your workloads. And this means you have to restart your workloads so they are all picking up a workload certificate that's gone down that path. Then you have to move everything to the new anchor and then shrink the bundle back again. And so there's Linkerd deployments to do, there's workload restarts to do. And if you've only got one cluster or two clusters and your environment's quite small, it's not a huge issue, I guess. Although there's always an argument that any unnecessary human intervention in production should be a concern and a risk, right? But yeah, we work with customers that have got hundreds of clusters, and so this is just something that just needs automating.
The customers that have the customers that have hundreds of clusters, are they doing a single trust anchor for all those clusters typically, or are there like groups of clusters? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, again, it's a mixed bag. What we typically find with like the larger customers is they've got some kind of cobbled together automation. I say cobbled together not in a negative spin, but that's essentially what it is. Right. They're not writing operators. They're kind of generally writing scripts that go through the phase that you would go through as a human, as an admin. But in terms of like, do they use a common trust anchor? I suspect so, Flynn. I suspect so, and that wouldn't be a good thing, right? Because that trust domain is, unless you've got multi-cluster set up and you've got a mesh of meshes, like you kind of would prefer to. If that trust anchor gets compromised, then you've got a problem that's pretty wide.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I mean, it depends. So it's worth a discussion for sure, as opposed to just trying to dictate.
Right.
But
all right, so
I'm getting PTSD looking at this ordering.
Okay, so the manual rotation dance, 8 steps. The first one is this is if you were going to rotate your trust anchor yourself and you're at your terminal, or you're trying to write a script to do this for you. The first thing you do is you have to export, you have to say or get a hold of the current anchor, the current trust anchor, then generate a new one. Then expand the trust bundle so you've got both of them side by side in the bundle, and then you have to propagate it to every proxy. So you're obviously deploying, you're doing a new deployment of the Linkerd control plane, and you're then doing restarts of the workloads. Then after that, you have to go and renew the identity issuer. Then you have to renew the workload certs again, so another restart of workloads, and then you can shrink the trust bundle and then propagate once more. So, I mean, it's 8 steps at a high level, but actually, if you broke those down, it would be more than 8 actual commands that you're running. So, yeah, again, you're talking about like true enterprise grade environments, many clusters, lots of workloads. Dev teams as well, we should consider here, all right? Because I'm working with more and more orgs now that are trying to federate ownership of the clusters to the dev teams that are deploying workloads, and because a lot of the Kubernetes, it does, yeah, because a lot of the Kubernetes bootstrapping is so good now that clusters can be. I mean, we were chatting before this one about how many clusters we've got running on our local machines, and we're not command by command running those. We have bootstrapping apps that can spin them up, do what we need to do, spin them down, and that's that. But the ownership ends up on the developers, and I think Sarah, you were saying that you've never really had to own or manage certificate rotation before in your career, right?
No, I'm just a special software girl. I've just written the code for things. I do not run it, and then I hear about the outages and I cry. So,
I think that's a much more common experience in developer land than we might like.
When I hear about the outages, I'm like, you're doing it wrong. I wrote it right. This isn't a bug. This is a feature type thing. But I know that we have released, or we will release, a trust anchor blog soon. And a lot of this is very timing dependent. I think you touched on that, but I think it's such a huge thing where you're waiting for everything to kind of come into a green status and like making sure everything is synced. And I feel like that's really to hit home. The timing element is so important, and it takes so much time. Like can be like, it's easily like a 2-day process of just like an SRE trying to pull their hair out. Do you agree or disagree, or,
If you've never done it before and you're trying to do it by hand, it could take quite a while. Yeah. Which is why, back to Joe, automating it is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to quickly touch on that as well, you have to consider like things like change management, bureaucracy, all of the things that actually affect how change is done in production. And if you're in financial services, if you're in a bank, or if you're in government, or just to be fair, any highly bureaucratic organization where changes can take a week or two to get approved and then implemented, and then like I said, we've got a slide now of like some common kind of failure modes and things that can go wrong, right? So things like the wrong order. We just went through the steps then a minute ago. If you skip a step, an engineer gets distracted by something that's going on, comes back, forgets something, or anything that can cause an engineer to skip a step, or even if a script has been written, not really maintained, some error doesn't get caught in the script, it kind of like skips beyond and carries on. Like there's so much that can cause an issue. And then sort of hidden defaults, right? So like Cert Manager can rotate without changing the key, which I mentioned a minute ago. Like the whole point of rotating certificates is to kind of like protect those sensitive values. And I think this is important at the end as well. Rotation's scary. So teams postpone it, right? Like let's set a 10-year expiry on our certificate. They'd rather just like kick it under the rug a little bit.
One of the really fun things that I'll throw out about that last slide is that all of those failure modes that Joe was just talking about are things that we've actually seen in the field with production clusters. So yeah, very, very real stuff.
Yeah. So the missing orchestration layer. I think most engineers that are looking after Kubernetes clusters, whether they're platform engineers, SREs, DevOps engineers, have probably heard of Cert Manager right now and kind of what it can do, but also the limitations, right? So it can create the new trust anchor and the issuer. It can renew them, and it can like store keys and certs in secrets with whichever secret management tool you use. What it doesn't solve is like when to expand the bundle, when it's safe to switch the issuer, how to restart the workloads, and when to kind of know when all of the workloads have successfully both restarted, come up, they're green, and then the next step can be implemented. And so yeah, Cert Manager is great. Most people love it. It's a fantastic piece of kit, but there are gaps that, as you mentioned, then Flynn, we've seen customers get caught out on, and you don't want to get caught out in production.
Yeah.
So this is where the trust rotation operator, the trust anchor rotation operator comes in. So it's new in Buoyant Enterprise for Linkerd, version 2.20. It is feature maturity beta. So for any organizations that have any kind of rules or standards on what the maturity needs to be for this, just keep that in mind.
And for organizations that can tolerate it, we would love feedback on it. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so what ships? We've got the operator itself. We've also got Linkerd Trust, the CLI extension that can be used as well. Okay, and we can have a look at those in the demo if we've got time. So the operator is deployed in the same way that all of our features are deployed in, with regards to Helm charts and a companion CRV chart. It runs in the Linkerd namespace. It reconciles one trust anchor rotation resource. Okay, so at the moment this is single cluster only, although there are plans, unofficial plans, to expand the feature set that gets shipped with the trust anchor rotation operator. And the last thing is it exposes phase and convergence as Prometheus metrics as well. So if you've got Grafana dashboards, or you're shipping to Datadog or New Relic, or whatever tool you use to kind of alert on certificate expiry, there's a bunch of metrics in our docs that you can look at and plug into your existing observability stack as well.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so division of labor. So we have Cert Manager, we have the mesh, and this is where the operator sits in the middle of them. So Cert Manager will mint and renew the anchor and issuer. The operator will then maintain the config map that those certificates are pulled from the control plane. The operator then handles the refresh of the control plane when the bundle changes, and then it will gate every phase. And what we'll do in the demo is we can look at that CRD and watch the status and the phase change as we go through the rotation. And then the mesh is obviously where the control plane lives and where all your workloads run as well.
So, sorry, part of this then is getting away from using Trust Manager. Just you're using Cert Manager, and then the Trust Anchor rotation operator is handling the bundle rather than the Venafi Trust. Yeah, awesome.
Right, yeah. So rotation in 3 movements: expand, switch, and reduce. Nothing, in terms of the 8 steps we went through earlier, nothing is really changing in that respect. It's simply that we're just abstracting and automating that away, and hopefully giving engineers some of their time back so they can go and do things that they would probably rather be doing, because I'm sure there are PKI enthusiasts.
Somewhere.
Most, well, I wasn't going to, most engineers that I've worked with in my career so far have never kind of like enthusiastically raised their hand when the sprint planning involves certificate rotation or, quarterly planning or however works kind of division now. So
I want to meet these PKI enthusiasts, by the way. I want to like have coffee with them.
We can arrange that
conference. Yeah, I'm sure there's a conference. Yeah. Okay, so we've got status phases. We've got 6, as you can see. We've got sync. I'm not going to read them all out, but you can see that, and we'll watch them in the demo, how it kind of moves from sync to where it's like there's a steady state, everything's green, healthy, everything's all aligned from anchor, issuer, and workload. Then it goes into the session control plane when the bundle's been changed, propagating trust routes when workloads have been restarted. And like I said, that propagation is propagating down through to the workloads. Waiting for identity rotation is obviously when that identity issuer needs to be rotated. Now, I've highlighted that I've highlighted that box, but that can also be automated with Cert Manager. For our demo, I will just trigger the rotation. 5th one is renewing workload certs. Is like I said, when the workloads are being moved onto the new issuer, and that's the second reload, and then removing the old trust routes as well. So the bundle shrinks back to the new anchor and it goes back to synced. So there's one manual step that in the demo, but doesn't necessarily need to be there in a customer's environment, in our environment. So that's the note here. I'll be running CMCTL for renewing, but that doesn't necessarily need to be done in an environment. I've tested fully end to end that this can all be done without any commands, and it's fine.
To do it without the manual bit, do you just have something that triggers when it sees that waiting for that metric segment stated code?
Yeah.
Cool.
So the trust anchor rotation resource. So this is the resource itself, custom resource. You can see we've got a pretty simple definition. We've got a phase. We've got a blocking message when it's waiting on something to happen, and then there's some properties for the trust bundle. So status, converged pods, and target pods. And so actually, it helps you track how many pods are actually kind of where we want them to be in terms of the status. Like I mentioned earlier, cluster scoped, 1 per cluster at the minute. This may change in the future, but the minute is 1 per cluster. The spec is a single spec, and the status is kind of like everything that you should need to know in there. The phase, the blocking message, the conversion counts, everything that you would need to know when carrying out the rotation is there. That is a command that I will use in the demo just to kind of watch the status, and we'll kind of watch the phases as they change. And one of the last things I want to talk about here is we compare this now with the data plane operator. So we've had the data plane operator for some time. I can't remember how long we've had it, but we've had it for a while. And what you can do now is you can plug the trust anchor rotation operator into the data plane operator. So those workload restarts are completely automated for you as well, because the trust anchor rotation operator on its own doesn't reload the workloads after each phase. So you would need to go and do that. With the data plane operator, it's kind of end-to-end reloaded.
I feel like the data plane operator was 2.18. Does it sound right?
Was it 2.18?
Is it recent? That sounds recent. 2.18 is soon.
I'm going to see if I can look that up while we go on.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, like it says, there's two restarts per rotation. With the operator without it, you've got 3. And again, there's obviously going to be scenarios and edge cases where customers might be running workloads, daemon sets, stateful sets that they're kind of like they need to be careful about, and they need to make sure are not just kind of automatically restarted. This won't be for everybody, but for teams who want to just automate as much of this as possible, yeah, this fits really nicely with the data, and we'll see it as well.
I mean, the users don't really feel the restarts, do they? Like they don't like see it. It just kind of like slow rolling restarts that happen in the background. Hopefully,
I mean, that could be like, that's a big question to kind of dive into. I mean, assuming that the pods are truly ephemeral and can be restarted. I mean, I said some stateful sets, some replica sets, applications sometimes need to be restarted at certain times. I know that's kind of anti-Kubernetes and anti the whole kind of like one of the whole reasons for using Kubernetes, but that is sometimes the case. Okay, why 2 restarts and not 3? So the trust routes are baked in, and then the leaf certs are fetched live. So changing the trust routes needs a new pod, and when they're fetched live, then they're renewed in place, no restart. So again, it's that expand, switch, and reduce. That's 3 steps that we saw earlier.
And checking back over the release notes, it looks like I'm very wrong, and the data plane operator showed up in 2.15, which feels a lot more reasonable. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Sarah's shaking her head like, I can't believe you got that wrong, dude.
And you have to have this every change log memorized. So get back to work.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, cool. So we are at demo time. So any questions before I move on? Any comments? Anything you wanted to just quickly go over?
There is a question from chat about, or a statement about one of the guys being interested in keeping the trust anchor outside of the cluster. And I feel like hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit during the demo, but I feel like that kind of lands in the, okay, make cert manager do that for you category, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, is that I'm trying to think of a scenario. Is that where we would look at kind of managing multiple of these with one and having maybe one control plane operator and then
it's we should take a look at it. I mean, it'll be interesting to look at this with the demo, right?
Yeah.
But the ultimate requirement is that we have to have a way for, the operator to read the public key of the trust anchor, and we have to have a way for something to generate an identity issuer. So certificates are so much fun. Really, they are.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we have the Faces app, and as you can see, they're kind of the blinking. Every time a request lands in one of our workloads, the response will give one of these very, very interesting emojis. I'm not going to read them all out, but obviously at the minute, everything is very happy. We're getting blue background, smiley faces, so everything's a success. And we're going to see that as we go through the rotation, we won't be getting any service errors, timeouts. Well, that's the aim. In theory, if things go as I want them to go, then that should happen, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to just probably split the screen and have that there. Okay, so we've got some CLI and some faces out. So as you can see, I've run Linkerd check. Everything's green, full of ticks. Everything's where we want it, and the version is 2.20. Okay. So,
and 2.20 is out, so everybody who wants to follow along from home, you can go and use 2.20.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do, so the demo split into 2 parts. The first part is let's go through what it would typically look like to manually rotate this certificate and how many commands and things you have to consider, and let's just think about like how this could quite easily go wrong. And then the second part of the demo is going to be on like let's look at this when we use the rotation operator. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just show. Let's do that. Let's look at the current certificate. Okay, certificate's there, it's valid, everything's fine. Everything was green in the Linkerd check anyway, so I'm not worried there. So the first step is let's create the new trust anchor. Okay, so we're just going to do this very quickly. You can see I've already done this once or twice, so I'll overwrite that new one. That's very happy. Now I need to bundle the old and the new certificate, the old and the new anchor together. So let's bundle that in locally. Again, we'll overwrite. I've got 2 certificates in there, and if we, yeah, that's fine. And then we need to deploy the bundle. So we've combined these, the old certificate and the new certificate. Now we need to deploy it into the Linkerd control plane.
And this is getting back to your overlap principle, right? Where the first thing we do here is we have to make sure that the new anchor and the old anchor are both present in the bundle, because if you don't, very bad things will happen.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and it has happened. We've seen it. You know, customers have raised several ones with our amazing support team, and we've had to kind of
And the support team actually is amazing, but it would be lovely to not have them have to get involved there. I actually did a lightning talk about this 2 KubeCons ago. I guess it was, talking about a particular case where this went badly wrong, and it was not pretty.
Yeah. So what we can do now is we should, if we do this get config map and look at the trust rules, we should see 2 certificates, which we do. We see both certificates that are now in the config map. However, what we've not done is we haven't propagated this to the control plane pods, the Linkerd control plane pods, and then to the pods that are running the faces app. And so I've thrown some kubectl magic into a nasty shell script, and I'm just going to run that.
Can you show that script in your other window there? I assume it's just a couple of kube control rollout restarts.
Yeah, literally just some kubectl.
Yeah. Wow.
So it does the Linkerd stuff first, and then yeah. Oh, actually, you know, I think I actually carried the wrong script. So let me just show that again. Restart mesh. There we go. That's a lot better.
Yeah,
so we're just doing some kubectl rollout restarts on Linkerd first, Linkerd namespace first. So it propagates to the control plane. Then we do the restarts on the faces app, so it propagates there.
I will point out one important thing that's implicit in there. If you don't wait for the control plane to restart before you restart your workloads, then restarting the workloads doesn't count.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yes. It needs to be in order. I have carefully baked that order into the
Not that I have ever gotten burned by that in my personal experience. You understand?
Never. No way.
I'm sure not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Let's run a quick Linkerd check just to make sure after we've deployed this bundle and then propagated it that like everything is still green, still healthy, still checks out. It looks like it's thumbs up so far. Okay. Cool. So now we need to move on to the issuer, because it's not just the trust anchor that you rotate when you do this. You have to do the issuer as well. So it's going to be similar process. You don't have to bundle, but you do have to create a new issuer and then deploy that and then rotate the workloads, the pods. So now we've created the new certificate. Now we need to do the deployment. So I'm just using the helm command to do that. And there we go. So we should still see happy faces. Everything's okay so far. 6 seconds. Yeah, these are coming up okay, aren't they? These are fine. Okay, cool. So then again, we need to go back to the restart and do the restart of both the Linkerd control plane and then the workloads as well.
It's always nice when the demo works smoothly. Really,
it is. I have been through it. Well, Flynn, funny actually, I went through it a couple of times, 3 days ago. Everything was great, and then about an hour ago, I was just running through the setup and I saw errors, and so I was like, in typical panic fashion, I was like, oh gosh, maybe that would make for a better demo.
Yeah, it's always fun when it breaks, and then you get to see like somebody like figure it out in real time, and you learn new things that way.
Right, yeah. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to do another deployment. This time we're going to be deploying using the new trust anchor. So just a new one, not the bundle this time.
Which has the effect of removing the old one.
Yes, prunes the old anchor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's also, I should probably point out, like the removing the old trust anchor is actually a really important part of this, especially if you're doing a rotation because you suspect some sort of incident has happened. You know, don't forget that step. It's important.
I was gonna say, can you just leave it and then like you just carry all of your old certificates with you forever, and it just grows?
It will work if you do that, but it is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Or rather, it will work up. Like, I don't know how many certificates you have to have in the bundle before things start breaking. Eventually, I expect something is going to run out somewhere. But yeah,
this is going to be our next benchmark. Is like, how many certificates can you shove in here and pass through?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we've pruned the old anchor. Now again, I have to do another reload because that old anchor is still in the kind of like the path down to the workload certificates.
Right.
So give that restart. And after this, we'll do a Linkerd check again, just to make sure everything's still green, happy, healthy, thumbs up before we move on to actually automating lots of this. I think so far, this is like the 13th actual like step when you break it all down. So okay, cool. Give that a second or two, because if you run the Linkerd check too quickly, the old pods haven't disappeared, and you can kind of get.
I was going to ask, what does Linkerd check actually check? If you could break it down for a newbie like me.
Lots of things, doesn't it, Flynn?
Yeah. It will. Some of the obvious ones are it goes through and makes sure that your cluster has the things that you would expect, like a Linkerd namespace, and make sure that the right Linkerd controllers are running. It actually does check the certificate chain.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what all it does. Enough stuff that I've never been sure exactly what all it's doing, but it's pretty fascinating in that there are an awful lot of problems where Linkerd check will turn them up. And so it's a really, really good place to start when you are. If you have a cluster running Linkerd and it cannot pass Linkerd check, it's almost always a real problem that you need to look at.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So a lot of its dependencies at a high level. So can it initialize the client? Can the client actually query the API? Have you got the correct RBAC and network path to go and query it? Are you running the supported Kubernetes API version? And then we get into the Linkerd dependencies as well. So again, it goes through all the control plane components and dependencies, CRDs, namespace, then through to identities. This way it starts checking certificates, like are the certificate configs correct? And so, for example, if I, like Flynn mentioned before, if you do the restarts in the wrong order, or if you forget something or miss something out, this is where it flags up, because it can see that path isn't looking the way that it should do in terms of the validity down from the trust anchor all the way down to the workload.
One thing I will point out, if you scroll up a little bit, so you see checks in there like issuer cert is valid for at least 60 days.
Yeah.
That 60 days is hard-coded as far as I know. So if you decide that you want your issuers to only be valid for a week because you're going to be very security conscious, then okay, Linkerd check will raise a warning there. But pretty much everything else is something that's probably real.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right, sweet. So everything's happy. I should now be able to move on to actually bringing in the trust anchor rotation operator and actually automating this, so we don't have to do 13 steps per rotation. Okay, cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is my scripts use this variable. I'm just going to onboard the trust anchor rotation operator. And essentially what we're doing here is we're handing the PKI over to cert manager. These steps, or many of these steps, I might do things slightly differently, but the steps to do this that are needed are in the docs as well. I've had a look and made sure that everything should be in the docs. So
cool.
Any feedback, as we mentioned before, is always welcome. Please go and give this a try. Okay, cool. So some Helm installs and annotations, just kind of hand over some of that ownership. Okay. And then another one, let's get the cert manager in there. So again, we're just going to swap some certificate ownership over. I'm going to just...
Presumably, if you were doing this from the start, then you'd just, when you ran the original Linkerd Helm install, you would just give it the right values here, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
So a lot of what we're actually looking at right now is migrating from manual control over to the trust anchor rotation operator.
Yeah, and again, that is going to be obviously the state that most folks that are already using Linkerd are going to be in right now. So the docs and the guide and the walkthrough are online. We can probably actually find the link whilst we do the demo and drop it in the chat somewhere, can't we? Or present it somewhere for folks to see. Okay, so we've done that restart. Let's do another Linkerd check now. We've installed Cert Manager. We've handed some of the ownership over. So I just want to make sure our Linkerd check is happy and is perfect. Okay. So here is when I flip over that control to the Cert Manager identity. Awesome. So I'm now just going to roll the Linkerd identity deployment and then just grab the certificate as well. Perfect. So both are in true ready state as well. That's good. All right. So here is where we get to see that Linkerd Trust CLI functionality in action. So let's just take away this one here for a second. We're going to do a restart. Now that issue has restarted. So the issue has been restarted. Now we're going to restart the workloads to get new leaf certificates. As you can see, face is still happy. So nothing's kind of gone down. We're not seeing latency or errors, timeouts, anything like that whilst onboarding this. So it's a if done correctly, a seamless sort of switch. Okay.
I have put a link in the chat to the docs about this.
Cool. Okay, so at the moment, what we've done is we've transferred ownership over to Cert Manager and then redeployed and restarted the issuer and the workloads. And then now I'm going to do a deployment of the Trust Anchor Rotation Operator, the CRDs, and the actual operator itself.
And to reiterate for people who weren't here, up through this point, we've done a lot of migrating the configuration to give Cert Manager control of the things that Joe was previously manually controlling.
Yeah.
And now I guess we're ready to actually use the Trust Anchor Rotation Operator.
Yeah, I think up until the step I've just implemented in terms of installing the Trust Anchor Rotation, most customers will be already kind of handing ownership over to Cert Manager. So those steps I took were really just to get me from that really undesirable state into a state where at least the certificates are being kind of rolled. The certificates being renewed themselves, not deployed into the mesh, but just rolled themselves.
Right.
So that's been done, and we've installed the trust rotation operator CRDs and the operator itself. You can see on this bottom lines of the output here from get pods that we can see the trust rotation operator pod itself. It's up and running, all looks healthy and ready, so we're good there. So let's have a quick look at the trust anchor rotation resource itself. Let's clear these two and just have a look at this. So this will be the output that we kind of put a watch on as we go through the rotation, the automated rotation, and we'll see this phase start to change.
So wait, did it just do a rotation when you installed it, or is
yes. Yeah, yes.
That's pretty awesome. Not only did we give Cert Manager and the Trust Anchor rotation operator control of things, it just went ahead and did it. And
yeah.
Takes hands off to a whole new level.
Yeah. And Faces has been happy the whole time, so that's good, right?
So when I reload these now, that phase should change. I'm still removing no trust rules. Okay, so we can do a Linkerd trust check.
Exactly. Linkerd trust is itself, that is itself a new feature, right? Linkerd trust.
Yes. Yeah. It was in the slides before. There's a few commands. One's trust check, one's inspect that we'll run now just very quickly. This just gives you some more details on things like how many workloads are actually converged out of like the desired, and then some fingerprint information, and then just again some.
And now we're in sync phase.
Right. Correct. Yeah. I restart those workloads. So we're now in synced. And this was just onboarding it. Okay. And then we can do another Linkerd check. So you'll see now that you see those non-green ticks. I'll just scroll up. It was a little bit quick. So I think you mentioned a minute or two ago that if the issuer cert isn't valid for 60 days because we want more regular and a higher cadence of rotations, then you will get that. Doesn't necessarily mean there's an issue, just something you should be aware of, that if you're not intentionally setting it to less than 60 days, you should flag that with your team.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
exactly when trust anchor rotation is deployed.
Right.
I really like that one.
Right. And so now what I want to do is I want to hand over the actual workload restarts to our data plane operator. So I haven't got that installed just yet. So I'm going to do that now. And that is these commands. So I'm creating a namespace, creating the secret for my license. That doesn't need to happen. I could just print it here, but I won't print it on the screen. And then the actual Linkerd Buoyant Helm chart, which includes the data plane operator. So you can see I'm leaving Buoyant Cloud enabled to false. I don't want to start shipping data to bCloud just now. The control plane operator, that's also false. So I don't want to start playing with that, but the data plane operator set to true. So
you could use the trust anchor rotation operator and the control plane operator at the same time, right?
Oh, yeah. This is about. I don't want to use the control plane operator right now. Neither do I want to use. Buoyant Cloud. So I'm just leaving it as it is.
Obviously, we would prefer people to use Buoyant Cloud and the control plane operator.
Right.
I can do a casual plug that you can try Buoyant Enterprise for free. Just sign up, give us your email and some data, maybe your fingerprints, and we'll give you a license to play with.
Is this operator available in the Edge release? Not in the Edge release.
Yeah, it is only. Yeah, this operator is only a Buoyant Enterprise for Linkerd feature, but as Sarah was just pointing out, there are a lot of people who can use Buoyant Enterprise for Linkerd without paying for it. small organizations, things like that, and everybody can try it and see what it's like.
Yeah, try it. Give us feedback. Help us go from beta to alphas.
Well, from beta to GA, right?
I only think in beta to alphas and omegas.
I have a pod in crash loop back off. Now this didn't happen the other day.
I willed it. I willed the demo pod,
Yeah.
and I'm very sorry.
That's it. Sarah's out of here.
I'm here for the entertainment. I'm trying to bring the the
this
Kubernetes
is how you
expertise.
know.
Yeah.
This is how you know we're doing it live.
Yes.
That's
Right.
interesting.
Okay, let's fix that. Yes, that is interesting indeed. Buoyant
I would have expected that to not be necessary since you didn't have bcloud.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe
Okay.
needs setting. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I'll fix that. So this is going to. Okay. Give me a second. Let me see if we can get this fixed with a redeploy. What's the value? Quickly find the value. Boom, 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 boom.
I assume Joe is frantically typing at a window we can't see right now.
I'm just quickly grabbing the Helm value so we can set it correctly. Yeah.
And that's causing the error that you're seeing right now, is that there's just a value that needs to be set that isn't?
Yeah, basically, yes. So if we just look at the logs here, it's expecting a value for client ID in the file.
Which should be only needed for Buoyant Cloud.
I would hope we can just go.
So one of the outcomes here is likely to be that we go back to engineering and say, hey, seems like there might be a bug in this particular thing.
Didn't you deal with a Helm issue recently, Flynn? That was community given. That was like a variable like this. Is it the same one? Maybe we just need to pull the latest update or something.
Different one. It was. I think it was a different one. But yes, we got a report that there was a problem with the enterprise chart where the tracing block went in the wrong place, and engineering has looked at that and gone, yeah, that's a bug. So I am optimistic that it will be a fixed bug very shortly.
No, I know.
Lightning speed.
Okay, cool. I know what's happening. We can fix it. So I didn't bring in an environment variable and I run the command, but we'll do that right now. Yes, there we go. That should be there. Just give me a second. There we go. Days plane operator is now running.
Excellent.
So we have both operators running, the trust rotation operator and the days plane operator. So of course, the trust rotation operator is going to take care of the certificate part of this, and then the days plane operator is going to take care of the workload restarts. So the next part of this is going to be to actually start looking at kicking off a restart, I believe.
I also find it amusing that you're on a branch named Everything Update.
Yes, named quite intuitively, isn't it? So the first thing we need to do is when we ship the data plane operator, one of the things that we should point out is that you don't get a data plane resource built in. You have to create it afterwards. So now what we need to do is say to the data plane operator, hey, these are the like workloads that we're going to be attaching this to. And so that looks like this.
Yeah. I was about to say that's a per namespace thing, if I remember right. But
yeah.
But yeah, you know, I'd forgotten that you could limit it to certain workloads within a namespace too. So good to see that reminder.
Yeah.
That's super friendly to know.
Yeah. No, the data plane operator is really pretty cool. Actually, the the lifecycle operators in general, the control plane and data plane operators working together. It's pretty cool.
And then this command that I've just run is just patching the resource so that we look for where we're now configuring the interval for which the workloads will refresh sort of that certificate renewal on. So the operators are like looking for the renewal, and then when the data plane operator sees that, okay, there's a new certificate, then it'll reload.
What's the default?
That's a great question. I think the default's 5 minutes.
That's pretty generous.
I think it's 5 minutes, but I could be wrong. I think it's 5 minutes last time I looked. And I mentioned earlier in the slides that we went through that there was a watch command where we can see the kind of like states change. So I'm going to run this down here, and you can now see that like the phases synced, the bundles converged, and all the workloads are converged as well. So at the minute we're like pre-rotation, nothing's happened, everything's fine here. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start the rotation of the trust anchor. Now, obviously, again, I'm going to force trigger it myself, but you would typically just have this happen when the certificate is renewed by cert manager.
Although, let's face it, CM control is the way that some people trigger.
Yeah, of course.
Trigger this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah, especially in production. Because they want to control those change windows, right? So it might be that automatically it might be due to rotate on a Monday, but the change only gets approved for the Thursday following. So it's like, hang on, let's actually manage the actual cert manager bit ourselves. So as we can see straight away.
Well, that was quick.
Straight into refreshing control plane, propagating trust routes. So if we just do a get pod A, we can see that the control plane is restarted. And we're now starting to rotate the workloads for phases as well. And again, all whilst we've got blue background, smiley emojis, traffic isn't slowing down, we're not seeing timeouts, any service errors. I'm not really having to do a lot. I'm just kind of watching this process kind of go through the motions, so to speak.
So what's going on here is that the trust anchor rotation operator saw that you changed the trust anchor, and then what? It triggers the data plane operator, or is the data plane operator just noticing that something?
Yeah, the data plane operator is watching. It's like a conditional on the restart. So typically, the data plane operator is used when we're updating the Linkerd version itself, right? And like when it sees the version change in the control plane, this is the same thing, but it's like it's seeing that there's a new certificate, so it's now moving on. Now that patch that I applied earlier was that 30-second patch. Is like it's moved on to the next phase, which is waiting for identity rotation. And so this is where I'm going to just trigger the identity issuer to restart as well. All right.
Yeah, if anybody from Venafi is on, I would really love it if Cert Manager had a way for this to be trivially automated.
Yeah.
We can always hop in there, discuss, and try to get a good amount of people voting for it. So,
or we can just talk to the Venafi folks when we see them at KubeCon, because we interact with them quite a lot, actually.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So again, as you can see, we've gone through the same kind of control plane. Now going through the Faces app as well, restarting.
This is already so much nicer than doing it by hand. It's just not even funny.
Oh yeah, and we like while it's going on, you can check on things, so you're not having to be concerned so much about the actual operation of renewing everything. Now, as you can see, the phase has changed to renewing workloads. So like this is kind of the last stage of the whole process. So 2 commands that I've run here, both just to like trigger the cert manager rotation.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, really quick, really cool. Traffic isn't interrupted. I'll keep saying it, but no downtime, no latency, no errors. And again, no relying on me to break a Helm install, which I did on the data plan operator. That just goes to show, like, the more human like keys that are pressed, the more likely you are to hit an error. So so now we're into that pruning that we talked about earlier, Flynn, where it's removing the old trust roots. This is like the very last part, where it's like remove the old trust roots, and then everything will only be running with that new root in place.
We keep harping on the whole no downtime thing, but part of the reason we keep harping on that one is that Joe and I have both seen people repeatedly attempt the manual process and incur downtime because they got something wrong. It's a pretty big deal, really.
Yeah, I recall.
I don't even mean to imply that the people who tried to do it manually and got it wrong, I'm certainly not implying that they were somehow not skilled. I'm trying to convey that the manual process is very complex and very error prone.
Right. So, this is hard and a lot of steps to keep in your head. So
and we're done. That's it. We're back to synced again. So to follow this process again, all I'll be doing would be running the cert manager commands to renew the trust certificate and then the identity certificate myself. And that is literally it. Everything else, all the reloads, the restarts, the bundling, the pruning, all that happens for you. I remember a few years ago now, a particular outage that was caused by a configuration error whereby we thought we had automatic renewal in place, but the part that the data plane does here, where it goes and restarts everything, that hadn't kicked in. And a company I was working at, we were offline for like hours. It was through the night. We didn't have any observability, which would have obviously helped as well. But the root cause of it was that a certificate had been rotated, and then downstream the workload hadn't been rotated, and so they expired and then caused the outage. And I continue to see it here. One of the things I want to stress, and I should have stressed at the beginning, was that this whole feature has been created primarily off the back of feedback from customers, prospects, partners, the community, speaking to people at KubeCon. We've listened to teams stress to us that it doesn't matter how many Python scripts or Bash scripts or custom operators that are created, certificate renewal will almost always be a pain, and they wish they could just offload it or like outsource it to a product like this. So this is something that has come about because of feedback. So
some of that feedback has been very professional and civil, and some of that feedback has been people walking up to us at the Linkerd kiosk going, "Why are you screwing this up so badly?" So it's really nice to see stuff like this after getting some of that feedback.
And so that's the demo. 13 steps for the manual part. And even the two commands that I implemented for this second part of the demo, I only triggered those because I didn't want to wait and set the kind of. I didn't want to try and time the expiration to like precisely when I was going to be at that part of the demo. So pretty hands off, pretty reliable, and traffic was uninterrupted. So everything we kind of want from an operator.
And we could have. I mean, I assume that you could have set this up with something watching the Prometheus metrics and triggering rotations and things like that, but. Again, that's manually triggering these things for this demo, I think makes a lot of sense.
Of course. I know that some teams have already sort of implemented some kind of operator-like flow in their team, but they still have to manage it. They have to maintain it. They have to update it. They have to check on it. The trust anchor rotation operator, once it's deployed and you've onboarded it and your cert manager's in place, you're just letting them rotate. And as again, you've still got those Prometheus metrics so that you can plug them into your dashboards, set your alerts on them, and use them as you would do any other kind of signal.
Yep. Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
We have, I think, a few more minutes if people have questions. if nobody has questions, then that's okay. We'll go ahead and jump off, but we can give it a minute or so.
Yeah,
this is great to see, because I know personally that it looks pretty stressful, and I always have problems cutting releases with cherry picking branches and commits and things like that you've had to do for like really tough release processes in the past, and I've gotten it wrong like a billion times. So this is like this, but like more serious.
Yeah, I wish I did intentionally break that data plane operator install, but I actually didn't. So like it literally is proof during the demo that, you know, so many commands being run and forgetting an environment variable that should be configured here or something to be configured there, just the smallest details. So yeah, it helps.
And it's very easy to get some of this stuff wrong.
It is. Yeah. And like I said, there are plans to expand the feature set of the trust rotation operator. So we would love feedback on any scenarios, use cases that maybe aren't in the operator right now that folks would like to see. But yeah, definitely give it a go. It's definitely a value add, and combined with the data plane operator, this is so awesome. If you've got like, you know, tens of clusters with thousands of pods in them, then that workload restart being automated for you is just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and also once you're using the data plane operator, you can also throw the control plane operator in there and let it manage upgrading Linkerd for you, things like that.
Yeah.
Which is another big win.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. I think that we're pretty much done then. Let me put, so y'all should be seeing the little banner for the next Service Mesh Academy, which will be on Windows Mesh expansion. So using Linkerd to expand your mesh stuff onto workloads that are running outside of Kubernetes on Windows hosts. If you click the sign up button, then that should take you immediately to the place that you need to be. And I think that we're good to go other than that. Joe, Sarah, y'all have any parting wisdom?
Just thank you for watching, and please provide as much feedback as possible.
Yeah, we love feedback. How can I leave feedback, Flynn? Just throwing you under the bus right here. I think in the Linkerd Slack or
so we're supposed to have something set up where we can just say, oh, go here to provide feedback. And Sarah has just reminded me that I utterly failed to set that up on this new platform that we're using. So the easy way to do this is going to be to go to the Linkerd Slack, which is here. You can see that slack.linkerd.io. You can either drop stuff into the workshops channel, or you can ping me directly. I'm Flynn. I'm Flynn on all the Slacks. But yeah, we would love to hear from y'all, or, you know, I guess you can just drop stuff in the chat immediately. And I am certain that we will have the feedback link. We'll drop the feedback link in the workshops channel as well. That'll probably make things easier for some folks. But in the meantime, we will have that fixed for the next one of these. Joe, thanks very much for walking us through this. Very informative. I enjoyed it. And everybody watching, thank you very much. We'll do it again on August 13th, talking about Windows Mesh expansion.
Thanks, y'all.
Awesome.
Thanks much.
Thanks.